There's something you want to build. You can see it clearly. You've imagined the finished version 100 times, and yet the document stays blank. The project stays untouched. The hours dissolve into nothing. Not because you don't care, but because some part of you won't let you start. This isn't laziness, and by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly what it is. Let's describe what this actually feels like from the inside. You wake up with intention. Today is the day. You have a plan, you have time, you have ambition that genuinely burns in your chest. But then, something strange happens. You open your laptop, and instead of starting, you reorganize your desktop. You check your email. You watch one video that becomes 6. You clean your kitchen. And beneath all of it, there's this low humming tension. It's not relaxation, it's not rest, it's a specific kind of discomfort you can't quite name. Then evening comes, and the guilt arrives like clockwork. You tell yourself the same story. I'm lazy, I have no discipline. Maybe I just don't want it badly enough. But here's what doesn't add up. You do want it. You think about it constantly. You lose sleep over it. You feel a deep, almost painful frustration at the gap between who you are and who you believe you could become. That is not the profile of a lazy person. Lazy people don't ache like this. Lazy people aren't haunted by their own potential. So if it's not laziness, what is it? Psychology has a term that gets closer to the truth. It's called self-handicapping. First identified by researchers Stephen Berglas and Edward Jones in 1978, self-handicapping is a strategy, usually unconscious, where a person creates obstacles to their own performance. Not because they don't care about succeeding, but because they care so much that they need a way to protect themselves from what failure would mean. Think about that for a moment. You're not avoiding the task. You're avoiding what the task might reveal. If you try your hardest and it's not good enough, then what? Then maybe you're not as talented as you believed. Maybe the identity you've built around being smart, capable, full of potential, maybe cracks. And that, to your brain, is a threat more dangerous than any deadline. So here is the reframe. You are not broken. You are not weak. You are not missing some gene for discipline that everyone else received. You are a person whose sense of self became tangled with your output. Somewhere along the way, maybe in childhood, maybe through praise that was always conditional on achievement, maybe through years of being called the smart one or the talented one, you learned something dangerous. Your worth is your performance. And once that equation is set, procrastination isn't a flaw, it's a fortress. Your mind would rather you feel guilty about not working than feel devastated about working and failing. Guilt is uncomfortable, but an identity collapse, that is existential. Your brain chose the lesser wound every single time. So what do you actually do with this? Not motivational slogans, not productivity hacks, something deeper. Here are 5 principles, each grounded in the psychology of identity and self-regulation. 1. Separate identity from output. Cognitive behavioral therapy calls this cognitive diffusion, the practice of creating distance between yourself and your thoughts about yourself. You are not your work. A failed draft does not mean you are a failed writer. A messy first attempt does not mean you are a messy person. Practice saying this not as affirmation, but as correction. This piece of work is something I made. It is not something I am. When you sever that link, the amygdala has less to protect, and the prefrontal cortex gets to lead. 2. Make the first action absurdly small. Psychologist B.J. Fogg's research on behavior design demonstrates that the biggest predictor of sustained action is not motivation, it's lowering the threshold of initiation. Write one sentence, open the file, sketch for 90 seconds. Why does this work neurologically? Because small actions bypass the threat response. The amygdala evaluates magnitude of risk. A single sentence carries no identity weight. It's too small to mean anything about who you are. But once you begin, the Zeigarnik effect takes hold. Your brain becomes mildly obsessed with completing what it started. You don't need to feel ready. You need to make starting feel safe. 3. Expect imperfection and redefine what it signals. Research by Carol Dweck on mindset theory shows that people with a fixed mindset interpret struggle as evidence of limitation. People with a growth mindset interpret the same struggle as evidence of development. This is not just positive thinking, it's a fundamentally different neural appraisal. When you produce imperfect work, train your brain to read it as signal. This means I'm in the process, not at the end of my ability. Imperfection is not identity damage, it's identity construction. 4. Build identity on verbs, not nouns. This comes from James Clear's interpretation of identity-based habits rooted in self-determination theory. Don't call yourself a writer, say, I'm a person who writes. Don't call yourself a creator, say, I'm someone who creates even when it's hard. The noun version is fragile. One failure and it shatters. The verb version is resilient. It only requires action, not perfection. You shift identity from something you must prove to something you practice, and practice cannot be threatened, only abandoned. 5. Reintroduce your body to safety. This is the most overlooked step. Because the procrastination response is physiological, cortisol, muscle tension, shallow breathing, it must be addressed physiologically. Before you begin deep work, spend 2 minutes activating your parasympathetic nervous system. Slow exhale breathing, 4 seconds in, 7 seconds out. This stimulates the vagus nerve and directly reduces amygdala activation. Research by Stephen Porges on polyvagal theory shows that the nervous system must detect safety before it allows complex creative cognition. You cannot think clearly while your body believes it's under threat. Calm the body first. The mind will follow. Let's go deeper, into the brain itself. When you sit down to do meaningful work, work that is tied to your identity, your ambitions, your vision of your future self, your brain performs a rapid, unconscious calculation. The prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for planning, decision-making, and long-term thinking, begins to engage. It says, let's start, let's build, let's move toward the goal. But simultaneously, another region activates, the amygdala. This is your brain's threat detection center. It evolved to keep you alive, to scan for danger and trigger a protective response before you even consciously register what's happening. And here is the critical insight. Research in social neuroscience, particularly work by Naomi Eisenberger at UCLA, has shown that threats to your social identity and self-concept activate the same neural circuits as physical pain. Your brain does not distinguish between a threat to your body and a threat to your identity. So when you sit down to write that chapter, launch that project, record that video, and your unconscious mind whispers, "What if this proves you're not enough?" Your amygdala responds as if you're in danger. It floods your system with cortisol, your body tightens, your focus scatters, and your brain does what it was designed to do under threat. It avoids. This is not a willpower failure. This is a neurological protection protocol. Now here is the second layer. Psychologist Daphne Oyserman's research on identity-based motivation shows that people don't just pursue goals, they pursue goals that feel congruent with who they believe they are. When action feels identity congruent, this is the kind of person I am, motivation flows naturally. But when action carries identity risk, what if doing this proves I'm not who I think I am? The brain generates what Oyserman calls interpretation of difficulty as impossibility. The task doesn't just feel hard, it feels wrong. It feels like it's not for you. And you pull back, not from the work, from the threat. There's a cruel irony here. The more something matters to you, the more it reflects your deepest identity, the more likely you are to avoid it. You don't procrastinate on things you don't care about. You procrastinate on the things that could define you.
Here is the mental model. Think of your identity as a tree. For years, you've been building it upward. Achievements, ambitions, the image of who you could become. Tall and visible. But the roots, the part of you that feels secure regardless of outcome, those have been shallow. And so every strong wind, every difficult task, every risk of failure threatens to topple the whole thing. Procrastination is not you refusing to grow, it's you bracing against the wind. The answer isn't to push harder upward, it's to grow deeper downward. Root your identity in the process of becoming, not in the proof of having become, and the wind will stop feeling like a threat. So the next time you find yourself frozen, staring at the blank page, avoiding the thing that matters most, calling yourself lazy for the 1000th time, pause. Ask a different question. Not, why can't I just do this? But, what am I afraid this will say about me? That question changes everything, because it moves you from self-punishment to self-understanding, and from self-understanding, slowly, quietly, comes the ability to act. Not because you've conquered fear, but because you've stopped letting fear speak on behalf of your identity. You were never lazy. You were protecting something precious. Now, you can protect it differently. If this felt like something you needed to hear today, there's more ahead. Every video on this channel is built around one idea, that understanding how your mind works is the quietest and most powerful form of change. If that resonates with you, stay close. There's a video on screen right now that might help you concentrate. Let me know in the comments, what would you like the next video to be about?